So they could be in position to win the championship too. So we could have multiple schools winning championships is always great, which sets us up for something that Chris Stevens actually wrote over the weekend that was published today on our website. He mentioned that in order for black colleges to really put themselves on the map athletically, they should invest more in college basketball, whether it's fan support, whether it's resources, whether it's attention, what have you. Chris kind of laid out in his column, which you can check out on our website right now, about how that can be possible and some of the advantages that black colleges have over PWIs in terms of attracting talent and being a place where athletes should be. So I'm going to give Chris all the room he wants to kind of go further into his column and kind of his thesis, if you will, about like how black colleges could set themselves up for success through basketball.
Well, I didn't expect to have a forum for this, but okay, I'll take it. That's fine. Just watching this week just passed. I mean, we saw some really good basketball. I mean, we saw Grambling come from 14 down to beat Montana State. We just mentioned the North Carolina A&T women, having their gym absolutely on fire for the women's NIT. We saw Grambling take down Oral Roberts. For the in the first round of women's NIT. So basketball, and as I said at the end of my column, this is not a call for us to just forget about football, because football and basketball, whether people choose to admit it or not, are what we like to call as journalists the front porch of your university. And if you get those two sports in tandem, then you can build a strong athletic program that can feed your Olympic sports and your non-revenue sports. But you got to have one or both. And basketball feels like the easier sell right now because the playing field is a little more level because of the portal and NIL. Now, if our schools can embrace, the portal is going to be what it's going to be. Kids are going to come, kids are going to go. I mean, Delaware State just lost 2 guys from the MEAC championship runner-up team today. So, the portal is going to be what it's going to be. But coaches have to, take that with a grain of salt. Okay, yes, I lost this kid to the portal, but I can bring in another kid. Or I can bring in another 2 or 3 kids. And then, of course, with NIL, if you can show that your kid, if you can show your recruits that the opportunity to not only play college basketball and get a degree, but still make a little money on the side, if you advertise with this restaurant or if you advertise with this business, it can work out for you here at our school. And as I noted in my column, 700 players hit the portal on Friday at a Division I level. Not all of them are going to find Division I homes. So the kids are going to have to realize sooner or later that you need to make your first choice your best choice, or if you really have a good situation, don't walk away from it. Because not everybody's going to get a spot at the school that they desire. It's gonna be a crapshoot. It's gonna be, I don't want to say fish in a barrel, but it's gonna be a whole lot of movement going on. But it's not gonna be a lot of people getting their first preferences in terms of destination. So the portal is gonna work itself out to the point where kids only use it when they need it. Because kids are just using it now because it's like a shiny new toy. Like those of us who were gamers when we were kids, when we first got, some of us, tell you how old I am, when I upgraded from Nintendo to Sega Genesis. So, when I got that Sega Genesis, man, when it was NHL '93, Bulls versus Blazers, that was like a shiny new toy for me at that point. But it's just, the portal is a shiny new toy for these kids, and so is NIL, and it's all gonna. I'm not saying kids are gonna get tired of it, but it's definitely gonna even itself out to the point where we don't see as much movement. So, yes, we see movement now, but it's not gonna be 700 kids in the portal on the first weekend, and that they can hit it. It's just not going to happen. So basketball, football, you need probably 25 or 30 players to change a program around. Basketball, you probably need 3 or 4. And you can get 3 or 4 fairly easily today because, you can look around and see, and going back to Jared's point about recruiting early, like, the girls' player of the year in my state, Delaware, Giselle Gigi Banks. I'm sure people have heard her name, but if you don't, you need to go to YouTube and get familiar. She is the real deal. She won player of the year here as a 9th grader. She already has an offer from Dawn Stanley in South Carolina. That's what our coaches need to do, to piggyback off of Jared's earlier point. You need to start looking at these kids early. Like, yes, it may seem silly, but yes, you may need to go to some 8th grade games and some 7th grade games in this AU market. Just go see the kids and say, okay, all right, keep my eye on this kid. Might grow to be somebody, may not, but if they grow, we'll keep tabs on. So I mean, you can't just start at the high school level anymore with basketball, because I mean, these kids right now, I mean, they have mixtapes. I mean, there are 7th graders with like Overtime and Ball is Life followings, for crying out loud. So you got to get in on the ground floor. Like, this is a new era of basketball. You can't just wait until a kid is a senior or junior in high school and say, okay, I'm going to watch them now. You got to go see them 7th and 8th grade and say, okay, all right, I'll just keep tabs on them. If they continue to play well, then yes, 9th grade, 10th grade, we can start talking offers and scholarships. But yeah, the game has changed. But if we flow with it, if we embrace NIL, if we figure out a way through the portal, if we start recruiting kids younger, and as I said at the end of my column, build a groundswell of support, because A&T, as I said, A&T was turned for a women's NIT game. And I can't tell you who won the women's NIT in 2023. I can't tell you who won the men's NIT in 2023. What I can tell you is those people showed up and showed out for their classmates or friends or whatever over this past weekend in Greensboro. If North Carolina A&T can sell the joint out for women's NIT, then there's really no excuse for anyone else at the MEAC or SWAC level to be able to build that sort of support. So it's all in support, it's all in recruiting, it's all in adjusting to NIL and the portal. And these are things that we can do, because you only need one. You need one recruiting class to change the trajectory of your program. But once you do that, the dominoes start to fall.
Yeah, it was a really good column by Chris that published this morning. And one thing that struck me when I was reading it and you were laying your argument out, I kept thinking about, you're right on a lot of points, but the one thing that I think we will be remiss not to mention is the disparity in resources financially between the schools that we see every March make a run in a tournament and win championships and everybody else. Is that it's so great that it kind of makes it difficult. I know it's starting to kind of shift a little bit. You see a lot of mid-majors now, especially on the men's side, not only putting up upsets, but making deep runs in the tournament. I know last year, Florida Atlantic actually played for the national championship against UConn. So, and before that, it was Butler and then VCU and schools like that playing for the national championship, going to the Final Four, things of that nature. So it's starting to shift on the men's side a little bit, but those runs aren't consistent enough. Like, there's not enough Gonzagas that are considered a blue blood now, despite the fact they play in the West Coast Conference, despite the fact from where they started from long ago in the 90s up until now, they're considered in the same vein as Kentucky and North Carolina and Duke and all those schools, because it took them 20-something years to build their program up to that. And so for black colleges to kind of emulate that, it's going to take that same work. It's going to take a lot of money. It's going to take a lot of thinking differently of how to approach basketball recruiting too. So I think in that regard, I think in black colleges really, especially in states where basketball is kind of the sport, maybe it'd be hard to do like in the deep South where basketball is thought of the same way, but in those upper East Coast areas, northern areas where basketball is kind of the sport, I think that could be possible. But it's going to take a lot of equity, as we all know. We saw in the news how much black colleges are owed by their states in terms of funding and grant money and things of that nature, going back generations in the millions and sometimes billions of dollars. And that plays a big role too in why you see the disparity in athletics the way it is, from the teams to the resources to the facilities, everything else. That kind of factors in there too. So I think in a lot of ways, like if that's ever get rectified, you'll see us be Gonzaga and us be some of those teams that make those deep runs in the tournament. But I know, Jerry, you want to get into some comments a very prominent college basketball coach made before the tournament about mid-majors and their place in the tournament.
Yeah, so when we talk about leveling the playing field, we're talking about the gap between the Power Fives, group of fives, and the mid-majors. What's the difference between those teams? It's money, it's funding. So a team like in the SWAC or the MEAC, or even teams that are in the whatever conference Farley Dickinson's in, who beat Purdue last year, who you have all of these mid-major conferences that don't have the same funding as these conferences. What do they need? They need money. And what's the best way to get money is to win and to find their way into the NCAA tournament where they can get that $2 million payout. But the big conferences, they don't like that because they have teams that, are left out of the fray because they lose in their conference tournament, and they suffer as a result of the teams who are guaranteed at-large bids for winning in the conference tournament. Cue up Tom Izzo, who says that they should rethink, or I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it's along the lines of me paraphrasing, saying that he thinks that the NCAA should rethink the mid-major teams getting at-large bids. I mean, not at-large bids,
automatic bids.
Automatic bids for winning a conference tournament. And the SEC commissioner, Greg Sankey, I want to read this quote because this was just insane to me. He said, and I quote, "Giving away highly competitive opportunities for automatic qualifiers from smaller leagues, suggesting automatic qualifiers in mid-major conferences be taken away in favor of power conference teams. I'm a Division II guy, so I'm always looking for the little guys. I'm not very big myself, so I always have an appreciation, and maybe that would be a reason to expand. I just think what's happening now, everybody likes the upsets in the first weekend, but I'm not sure moving on, that's what's best for the game. I think it's good to be looked at seriously." When you think about the NCAA tournament, you think about the fact on the men's side that anything can happen. On the women's side, you think about the stars running the game. You think about Candace Parker with Tennessee. You think about Breanna Stewart with UConn. Think about Brittany Griner with Baylor. You think about the stars. When you think about the men's tournament, stars doesn't matter. It's about who is lined up on that day and who has the best game. And the best team on that day wins. That's why St. Peter's, as a 15 seed, went to the Elite Eight. That's why Farley Dickinson beat Purdue, who had the National Player of the Year, Zach Edey, on their team last year. That's why George Mason in 2006 made it all the way to the Elite Eight. That's why, or Final Four, I think. That's why Norfolk State in 2012 beat Missouri, and we're still talking about that. Mid-majors are the backbone of what makes the NCAA tournament so fun. I know we remember the Villanova winning the national championship in, I believe, 2016 on a buzzer beater. I know we remember Grant Hill throwing the outlet pass to Christian Laettner and him hitting the shot at the buzzer to advance in the Sweet 16. I know we remember the Fab Five of Michigan. I know we remember Arizona winning the championship in 97. I know we remember all of these Power Five teams who had dominant runs. Kemba Walker in 2014 having an insane run in the Big East tournament and then carrying it over to the NCAA tournament. We get that. But what makes the men's tournament so exciting is those mid-major teams who at any given moment can be upset-minded and knock off the team that we think is championship-bound. Just think about UMBC a couple of years ago when they became the first team to win as a 16 seed. I don't think we ever would have thought that a 16 seed could win in the NCAA tournament. It hadn't happened before, but it happened. And look what's happened since. We've had a 15 seed in the Elite Eight. We've had multiple 15 seeds win so often. We don't even shrug at that anymore. It's a normal occurrence in the men's tournament. In the women's tournament, a 14 and 15 seed has never won past the first round. So that tells you the difference. Exactly. It's madness. Madness is the sell of the tournament. If it was just all ACC, Big 10, Big Big 12 or whatever, all these Power 5 conferences, Pac-12 now isn't going to be a thing anymore. But like, if it was just all of that, then what's the excitement? There's no upsets. There's no, oh my God, I can't believe that team didn't win. No, it's not. They play each other all season. And then not beyond just the fact that you're robbing fans of that spectacular upset that is talked about for years and years. You're telling these teams that they are going to miss out on a $2 million payout because you want the teams in the ACC and the SEC and the Big Ten and the Big East to get a at-large bid in favor of a mid-major who won their conference tournament. Let me ask you something. Them teams that didn't make it to the tournament, are they hurting for money? Those teams that didn't make it to the tournament, are they upset because the players probably are, but the schools, they're not affected by that. What you think would happen if Grambling State didn't make it to the tournament? What do you think that $2 million could do for them and their program going forward? What do you think that $2 million could do for Norfolk State, men's and women's? Howard. What do you think that money would do for Howard, Jackson State? We are not on a level playing field. That $2 million ain't even going to put us on a level playing field either. But it at least bridge the gap a little bit. It'll at least help us out a little bit. So you telling us that mid-majors shouldn't be allowed to be in the tournament? That's just going to put the pedestal on the big conferences forever, and the mid-majors are just going to flail out. That's to me is just there's a word for it, but I can't think of it right now. It's like
it's stupid. That's the word for it.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. I was trying. It's a dictatorship, basically. You're trying to dictate who it remains at the top and keeping the little guy. You know what I mean? And that's I don't want to get too deep into it. Elitism. Thank you, Brandon. It's elitism. That's basically what it is. It's elitism. You're trying to keep the guys who are already at the top and don't need the accolades anyway. Because I guarantee if you look at the resume of those Power 5 teams that didn't make it to the conference, to the national championship, national tournament, they're fine. I promise you they'll be fine. And granted, yes, our mid-majors need to get over that hump, and we need to get one that to finally make it to the national championship game and win it all. Yes, it's a results game at the end of the day, but you're robbing us of the opportunity to prove ourselves. You're robbing us of the opportunity to bridge the gap at least even a little bit. And I just think that, with everything that Chris said, he's absolutely right that basketball can be that thing that helps us to build our programs, that helps to build our institutions. But, comments like this, that mid-majors shouldn't get automatic bids for winning their conference tournament. You're robbing us of the chance to better ourselves. And I just didn't like that. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, good points all around, Jared. Chris, anything to follow up that one by Jared?
Well, yeah. First of all, Tom Izzo's a clown. Let's start there. And I find it very interesting that he has a complaint about AQs, because the team that pulled off one of the most exciting upsets of last weekend used to be a Michigan State satellite campus. We're talking about Oakland. So imagine what you're saying to a guy like Greg Campy, who has been coaching at Oakland since 1984. My colleagues were not born. I was 2 years old. So, we're talking about a guy who's literally is a lifer at an institution that started off as a Division II, then moved up to a mid-major, then was an overtime away from the Sweet 16, and they got jerked in that final possession in regulation in North Carolina State. By the way,
say it again, Chris.
That was that ball clearly went off a homeboy's pinky. I mean, we don't know if Oakland would have got off a shot in the last 1.3 that would have won it, but it would have been nice for them to have the option. They didn't have the option. So, yeah, Oakland got screwed out of the Sweet 16. I'm going with that. But, yeah, and Greg Sankey's comments are hilarious because the SEC has won exactly how many tournament games this year? 2?
2, maybe.
Yeah. And they had like 7 or 8 teams in. So maybe y'all should start holding y'all into the deal. Maybe y'all should start carrying y'all own weight. Maybe y'all should be in the first 4. This is what I would like to see. I would like to see any assortment of these 4 PWIs, not PWIs, excuse me, or Power 5s that get these at-large bids. I want to see them in Dayton. I don't want to see a conference champion from the Horizon League or the Ohio Valley or the Missouri Valley or the MEAC or the SWAC in the first 4. I want to see that team that finished 7-9 in the ACC. I want to see that team that finished 8-8 in the SEC or the Big 12 in the first 4. If y'all are good enough to get out of the first 4, then damn it, prove it. Our schools shouldn't have to prove it because we won our conferences. Grambling won the MEAC. Grambling won the SWAC. Excuse me. Howard won the MEAC. They shouldn't have to prove anything to anybody in a first 4 situation. If you didn't win your conference in the SEC and the ACC, oh well, tough nuggets. Get your butt to Dayton and prove it. That's where I stand.